Clerks, the Philippines, and defense for your aura. That's right, we're going full hippie on this episode. Welcome back to On This Date. Today's date is October 19th, 2021. It is the 292nd day of the year. There are 73 days left in 2021. It is the 42nd Tuesday in the 43rd week and the 28th day of fall. We got 63 days left until winter. If today's your birthday, your birthstone is an opal or a tourmaline. So I didn't know what a tourmaline was, and I actually didn't know how to pronounce it properly, so I looked it up and found quite a few YouTube channels talking about crystals and stones and tourmaline and whatever. I went down this full-blown hippie, new age, crystal, whatever research thing, and I found out tourmaline is really good for protecting your aura. Black tourmaline, to be more specific. Like most of you, you probably didn't even know your aura needed some kind of protecting. Has anyone else ever thought that marriages would last longer if we all wore mood rings on our forehead like Hindu ladies do? About to have a heavy discussion with your wife and look at her and go, I'd like to discuss the credit card bill with you, but why don't we wait till that jewel in your forehead goes from black to green or maybe just a little amber? I guess that's the first installment of Random Thoughts on this day. Today is National Seafood Bisque Day. Every year on October 19th, National Seafood Bisque Day celebrates this tasty bowl of soup that's made from whatever the catch of the day was, I guess. Most of the time it's made with lobster or crayfish, something like that. Not a fan, but at least it gets its own day. All right, let's see what else October 19th has given us. 1935, the League of Nations places economic sanctions on Italy for its invasion of Ethiopia. I guess my first question here is, why would you invade Ethiopia? That makes no sense. Was Italy looking for a giant parking lot or something? I don't know. 1944, U.S. forces and allies land in the Philippines. So this was a big deal for the war in the Pacific. The U.S. had control of the Philippines for quite a while, and then on May 6, 1942, U.S. Lieutenant General Jonathan Wainwright surrendered all U.S. troops to Japan. So at the time, Corregidor, one of the islands in the Philippines, was the last stronghold for the U.S., and they were just getting battered. The troops were in bad shape. They had very little supplies, and General Wainwright decided it was time to surrender. He did, and there's a lot of ugliness that went on in the prisoner of war camps in the Philippines, but he did survive. Flash forward to October 19th, 1944, MacArthur shows up on the island of Leyte in this big amphibious assault. There's a famous quote about when MacArthur and the president of the Philippines at the time were getting off one of those landing craft. If you've never seen these landing craft, they're called Higgins boats. They basically go up to the beach, a ramp slams down, and all the troops run off. Usually they run into, ankle deep or knee deep water, something like that, waist deep in some cases, but it gets them up to the beach as close as they can. MacArthur and the president of the Philippines are getting off the Higgins boat for this big news thing, photo op, whatever. And the president of the Philippines says, I hope this isn't too deep. I don't want my people to find out I can't swim. MacArthur, who is an extremely arrogant man, said, well, I hope my people don't realize I can't walk on water. The battle had started 2 days earlier on October 17th, and they landed on the 19th of October, and this went on till 26 December 1944. In the end, the casualties and losses were devastating, especially for Japan. The U.S. lost 3,504 that was killed, about 12,000 were wounded, and 89 went missing. For the Empire of Japan, they lost almost 80,000 men. 79,261 to be exact. 80% of them died from starvation or disease. We had cut off all their supplies for months prior to this, and by the time we got there, a lot of these guys could barely stand. Now, after the surrender, it got a little weird. Not all the Japanese troops had found out that they had surrendered, so some of them were out in the jungle, and they continued to fight. Guerrilla warfare continued until March of 1945. Well, one guy continued to fight for 29 years. I am not even kidding. Hiro Onada hid in the jungle on one of the islands, not Leyte, for 29 years, swearing to fight the American invaders until his dying breath. Now, this didn't start off just by him alone. He had 3 other guys with him, and over time, they were like doing guerrilla warfare against the locals, burning crops, anything they could. The first of the 3 actually surrendered in 1950. Another one had been shot in 1954 by a patrol that was out looking for these guys because, I mean, the locals knew they were in the jungle someplace. They'd been, doing whatever they could to kind of screw things up for the locals and what they thought was Americans living on the island. So it was down to Hero and one other dude at this point. Well, in 1972, the other guy got shot while he was trying to burn some crops. He was on a mission to burn crops. Long after the war was ended. They were actually teaching the war in history classes, and this guy was still on this small island in the Philippines fighting the war. Hero finally surrendered in 1974, but it wasn't easy. His old commanding general had to go to the island and convince him to come out of the jungle. He died in 2014 at the age of 91. Very interesting story. If you ever get a chance to read up on him, watch some videos. It's mind-blowing that this guy's dedication carried him on 29 years after the war ended. I was in the Army, and one of the rules of being a soldier is you follow your orders till another order has been given. So your last lawful order, you follow it till someone gives you another order. That's the way it is. But 29 years? Come on. 1956, the Soviet Union and Japan sign a joint declaration officially ending the state of war between the two countries that had existed since August of 1945. So they still had it going on there. They weren't really fighting, but it was still a thing. 1960, the United States imposes a near total trade embargo with Cuba. 1987, the United States conduct Operation Nimble Archer and attack 2 Iranian oil platforms in the Persian Gulf. We had had problems with them. Well, since forever, we still are having problems with them. 2004, 13 people are killed when Corporate Airlines Flight 5966 crashes in Adair County, Missouri. 2005, Hurricane Wilma becomes the most intense Atlantic hurricane on record. 2012, a bomb explosion kills 8 people and injures 110 more in Lebanon. Movies released on October 19th, 1994, Clerks. Great movie. If you're not into comedy and you don't like kind of, middle school type humor, high school boy type humor, probably not the best movie for you to watch, but the movie is genius in a lot of different ways. One, it's Kevin Smith's first movie. He's the guy that did Jay and Silent Bob, Dogma, all those things. But Clerks was his first movie. All the actors basically donated their time. He got people from local drama classes and the local community college. He borrowed equipment, maxed out a couple credit cards, made this movie, and he became a big player in Hollywood eventually. Great movie though. Black and white indie comedy, which centers around the lives of 2 store clerks and all their acquaintances that come and go through the convenience store. They did Clerks 2 some years back. That was pretty good too. Definitely higher quality, but still a lot of dick jokes, as they call it in comedy. Born on October 19th, 1962, Evander Hollyfield, American boxer and actor. He just boxed recently, and the dude's almost 60, and it was sad. It was an exhibition thing, and it wasn't really a real fight or anything like that. He's not trying to make a comeback at age 60. It was ridiculous. Never should have done that. But he got paid pretty good from what I understand. So that's nice. He's a great boxer, but he also got his ear bit off by Mike Tyson. That was kind of funny. Died on October 19th, 2008. We lost Richard Blackwell. You might not know who he is, but he's the king of top 10 lists. He's one of the first guys to do this. He did the 10 worst dressed women lists and all that. Did it for years, and it would be in all the fashion magazines, and they'd talk about it on the E! Channel. He launched his own clothing line under the name Mr. Blackwell. He was 86 when he died in Los Angeles due to complications and intestinal infection. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Now go out, be productive, and be nice to each other.